has come to our family.
What's up, everyone, and welcome to the Quarantine. I'm your host, Wolf, and if you're watching this, the time machine must have worked. Today we're going to take an early look at Darkest Dungeons, a new early access game on Steam, developed and published by Red Hook Studios. It's available for PC, with Mac, PS4, and Vita launches planned, and will set you back about $20 as of now. I'm going to start out with saying that, again, this isn't an actual review. Just like my Evolve first impressions, this is my impressions on an incomplete game that's in early access. And as usual, I'm going to start off by saying how much gameplay I've logged into the game, so you can take the review or look or whatever you want to call this with that in tow. I've logged about 10 hours or so into the game as well, and I should mention I'm also terrible at it, but though I really enjoy this type of game. Darkest Dungeon is a grim-dark, side-scrolling rogue-lite. Your family estate's been overrun by a Lovecraftian meets Clive Barker's Jericho-feeling demonic presence, complete with demons, brigands, and cultists, just to name a few things. The game has you fighting your way through dungeons, collecting heirlooms that act as a type of currency to rebuild your estate. After completing missions that are assigned to certain areas on the map, they gain levels, thus unlocking more and more things to do in that zone, and then unlocking other zones for you to also go visit, and so on and so forth. You then spend these heirlooms that you get to upgrade the buildings in the town to provide better bonuses and also complete the objectives of the game. Before starting a mission, you'll select a group of mercenaries from your available supply, or you recruit more at your stagecoach, because apparently everybody's okay with dying for you. According to the wiki, there seems to be about 15 different classes. I've only seen 6 or 7, however. If you have the available money, you can unlock skills and upgrade them as needed in the town. You can then select what each adventurer is going to have in terms of from their available skills and what they're going to use in that dungeon you take them on. Giving them optimal positioning is vital to the success here. Luckily, the game does give you a little visual representation at the top of the screen of where they're going to be most useful based on the current skills that you have selected. While in town, you can also send your adventurers to go relieve stress, either by being devout in the abbey, or by sledding and drinking his or her problems away in the tavern. Each person might only be able to pray, or visit the whorehouse, or they may just prefer one thing over another, giving them a bonus instead when you send them to do that specific thing. Personally, bury me in a sea of flesh and I'll be fine. Actually, in retrospect, I should probably rephrase that given the setting here. I'm liable to literally drown in a literal sea of flesh, almost like Walmart in the South. Anywho, moving away from that nightmare, after sorting all of that out, and maybe reading any banter that your group may, pop up with, you move into the mission select. Each zone gives you access to different missions, depending on how many times the zone has been previously completed. Missions range from, kill X special monster, to explore 90% of the map, to defeat 100% of the room monsters, and many more types of missions in between. Then you move into buying supplies for the mission. Now, this part really pisses me off, probably the most in the game. Whatever you buy here will never leave the dungeon, so only buy what you need for this dungeon alone. Basically what I mean by that is whatever you have on you when you leave the dungeon is going to disappear. And that's a little tidbit of the game that it never tells you. And on top of that, it's always best to bring too much than too little. Not bringing enough of something can and probably will get you killed. So you wind up wasting a bunch of money essentially, almost every time you enter the dungeon. When you enter the dungeon, it's randomly generated, with a background theme based on the zone that you entered. You can see the entire layout of the area, but you have no idea what lies in between and in each room. You select a zone, and then it transitions to a long corridor where you advance down it, encountering monsters, obstacles, traps, lockboxes, corpses, all kinds of things for you to, get screwed up on. Now, the obstacles that you encounter, again, like chests and whatnot, only affect who opens them, so choose wisely. If it's loot, it goes to the entire party. If it explodes or anything, it only hurts who you had selected, so again, choose wisely who's going to open up that cabinet. The fights are enjoyable. I had quite a lot of fun with them. They're turn-based and rely on an RNG system. But if you're like me, the RNG gods hate you with a fiery passion and they piss on you pretty much every chance that they get. So for me, the fights usually wind up being way harder than they probably should be. But they're still enjoyable and a lot of fun. Though I would have liked to have some kind of a turn counter, or at least something showing who's going to be going next. So that way I know if my healer should heal, or if he should just kill the last monster. Maybe that's just me, but it would allow me to concentrate more on strategic play versus, me panicking over who's going to be going next. Hell, maybe a toggle in the beginning, like the new XCOM did, because we all know the elitists would froth at the mouth if you made their roguelikes even a smidget easier by adding a turn tracker. Now, while in a dungeon, you have to manage your health and stress. I honestly think it would have been better as sanity, but whatever. Anyways, if stress maxes out, your mercenaries lose his or her shit, and most of the time gain a negative trait. As far as I can tell, it stays with them until you get back to the town and lower their stress. They do, however, rarely gain a positive trait that also will stay with them, but just until the dungeon is over. One thing I would like to add that drove me fucking crazy is that this game never tells you you have to have exactly 4 people to embark on a mission. So in the early game, when your people are going insane and you want to calm them down, make sure you still have 4 people left over after recruiting. Because once you pay to have someone relieve stress, you can't get that money back, and you don't get that person back until after you get back from another mission. So, you can cancel it, but you don't get that money back. Just a word to the wise. The game has a really bad habit of not telling you certain shit that you just wind up having to find out. It's really annoying. Now, while outside of combat, you can't use any of your abilities, and it sometimes gets a little irritating. I assume it's because of lack of a mana system or whatever, but holy hell, if I have someone capable of healing, let me use their fucking healing spells. Even if it's at the cost of, let me add sanity to use it, or negative traits until the end of the dungeon, or something. It was really, really annoying because you would be at the end of a fight, the creatures has 1 or 2 health left, you have a guy that's on death's door, and you have to decide, okay, well, do I heal him and then let the enemy get to attack me, or do I just use my book of holy light and blast him into oblivion and then have to start the next fucking fight with somebody on death's door? It's just really obnoxious. Which brings me to my next note, death's door. I don't like it. When somebody reaches 0 health, they don't actually die. They do what's called sit on death's door. They get penalties to stats, and every time they get attacked after that, they might die. And I haven't lost a single person because the AI never, ever seems to take advantage of this. I've had 2 people on death's door, and the AI will attack everyone but those 2 people every time. I would prefer that they remove death's door, let me heal outside of combat at the cost of, debuffs or stress or something. And then the game also has this pretty neat lighting system. Your torch slowly goes down as you progress, and you can pick up more torches, or buy them for that matter, and increase your light. And the lower it gets, the stronger the creatures are, but the better the loot you're going to find, but the higher chance that you're going to be surprised, which mixes up your party. But on top of that, your stress also goes up. But the lighter it is, the lower your stress goes up, the higher chance you use surprise monsters, the weaker the monsters are, but the less good loot you get. So it's kind of a trade-off. The art style of Darkest Dungeon is outstanding. It's very This War of Mine crossed with the terrifying mind of Clive Barker and H.P. Lovecraft to give you a vibe that makes me giddy as hell. Are you going to get immersed and wake up in the middle of the night with night terrors and grab a flashlight because of this game? Probably not. But you're going to get a good, fun, grimdark feel from it. Not to mention the animations in the game, while simple, really fit the feel and aesthetics of the game. I really enjoy the very simple animations in it. Now, the controls are simple and good enough, I suppose. The whole game can be controlled with just a mouse, again, like This War of Mine. You click on that, click ahead of your people to make them advance, click behind them to make them retreat. You right-click on the actual avatars themselves, and the character sheet pops up, and you left click on attacks and on the monster to execute the attacks. It's very simple. You can, however, use A and D to advance and retreat, but I never really saw a need to because, I mean, the mouse feels better in my opinion, and everything else uses the mouse as well. So, the audio, in my opinion, is the strongest part of the game. The narrator's voice, the music, the sound effects, the ambient music. The only negative thing I can say about it, however, is the narrator's voice gets repetitive, saying the same few lines of dialogue repeatedly. I remember, Bastion is what I compare it to. It's not quite Bastion's level, but it's still really, really good. In closing, Darkest Dungeon is an incredibly fun roguelite with a very strong theme. With no release date in sight that I've seen anyways, the game is already this fun. I will definitely be eagerly awaiting a full release because they're already headed in a very positive direction. And as usual, there's probably a bunch that I forgot to talk about or cover, but you get the idea, which is the basic idea of these videos. I hope you enjoyed the peek. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have to put on my cultist robe and summon Yog-Sothoth and await the tentacle party. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you next time in the quarantine.
This expedition at least promises success.